Best Practices of Information Governance. I'm Dr. Mary Cecil. Information governance is a key underpinning for a successful enterprise risk management ERP program. Practicing good information governance is the essential foundation for building a legally defensible ERM, Enterprise Risk Management Program. It provides the basic for consistent, reliable methods for managing documents and records. Having trusted and reliable records, reports, and databases allows managers to make key decisions with confidence. And accessing that information and business intelligence in a timely fashion can yield a long-term, sustainable competitive advantage, creating more agile enterprises. To implement a successful information governance program, enterprises must standardize and systemize their handling of information, in particular their formal business records. They must analyze and optimize how information is accessed, controlled, managed, shared, stored, preserved, and audited. They must have complete, current, and relevant policies, processes, and technologies to manage and control information, including who is able to access what information and when, to meet external legal and regulatory demands and internal governance requirements. This is, in short, information governance. Information governance is not a project, but an ongoing program. It provides an umbrella of rules and policies, monitored and enforced with the support of IT to manage and control information, output, and communications. Since technologies change so quickly, it is necessary to have overarching technology policies that can manage the various IT platforms that an organization may use. Compare the information governance program to a workplace safety program. Every time a new location, team member, piece of equipment, or toxic substance is acquired by an organization, the workplace safety program should dictate how that is handled. If it does not, the workplace safety policies and procedures and training that are part of the workplace safety program needs to be updated. Regular reviews are conducted to ensure the program is being followed, and adjustments are made based on the finding. The effort never ends. The same is true for information governance. It's not a program. It's an ongoing program. Using an information governance framework or a model is helpful in assessing and guiding programs. Various models are offered, such as the principles from ARMA International, the Governance Model Reference Model, which grew out of the Electronic Discovery Reference Model, or MIC 2.0, which was developed by the consulting firm Bearing Point and released to the public domain. Another tool that is useful in the Australian market for records management project is designing and implementing a records keeping system. Using an information governance framework or a model is helpful in guiding an information governance program. Defensible deletion of data and information that no longer has value is critical, particularly in the era of big data. We need information governance policies in place and be able to prove that we follow them to justify to the courts and regulations deletion of information. With a smaller information footprint, organizations can more easily find what they need and derive business value from it. Data debris must be eliminated regularly and consistently, and to do this, processes and systems must be in place to cut out valuable information and discard the data debris, as such in a record retention system. An information governance program sets the framework to accomplish this. Information governance policies must be developed before enabling technologies are deployed to assist in enforcement. So the policies come first, then the technology. After the policy-making effort, seek out the proper technology tools to support the effort. These tools can help with monitoring, auditing, and enforcement. To provide comprehensive e-document security throughout a document's lifecycle, documents must be secured upon creation using highly sophisticated technologies such as Information Rights Management, IRM technology. This technology acts as a sort of security wrapper that denies access without proper credentials. Document access and use by individuals having proper current credentials is also tightly monitored. IRM software can control the access, the copying, editing, forwarding, or printing of documents using a policy engine that manages the rights to review and work on an e-document. Access rights can be set by levels or roles, much like network or database security, that employees are responsible for within an organization. So be sure that documents are controlled by security. A records retention schedule and legal hold notification, LHN, process are the two primary elements of a fundamental information governance program: record retention schedule and legal hold notification. These are the two basic parts. Implementation will require records inventorying, metadata normalization, standardization, and a survey of best practices. A cross-functional team is needed to implement information governance. Since information governance contains and requires elements from a number of established disciplines, representatives from the key areas must be included in the planning and implementation efforts. At a minimum, we need team leaders from legal, information technology, records management, compliance, risk management, human resources, and executive management. Members from corporate communications, knowledge management, system security, finance, accounting, and other areas may also be needed. Depending from the circumstances, we may need representation from major business units within the organization. The first step in information risk planning is to consider the applicable laws and regulations that apply to your particular organization in the jurisdictions in which it conducts business. This may include the laws of the United States, in the state, or within the local jurisdiction. Federal, province, state, municipal laws may apply to the retention of data, documents, and records. Organizations operate in multiple jurisdictions must be compliant with laws and regulations across national, state, or province boundaries. Legally required privacy requirements and retention periods must be researched for every jurisdiction in which the business operates so that all applicable laws are complied with, and it's the organization's responsibility to be aware of and to research these laws. A risk profile is a basic building block in the enterprise risk management. It assists executives in understanding the risks associated with the business objectives and allocating the appropriate resources. There are multiple ways to create a risk profile, and the frequency with which it is created, the external sources consulted, and stakeholders who have an input will vary from organization to organization. A key tenet to bear in mind is that the simpler is the better, and the sophisticated tools and techniques should not make the process overly complex. An information risk mitigation plan is a critical part of the information governance planning process. An information risk mitigation plan helps in developing risk mitigation options and tasks to reduce the specific risks and improve the odds of achieving business objectives. Proper metrics are required to measure the conformance and performance of the information governance program. We need an objective way to measure how we are doing, which means numbers and metrics. We need to assign some type of quantitative measures that are meaningful before rolling out an information governance program. Information governance programs need to be audited. Periodic audits will tell us how we are doing and how to fine-tune our efforts. To keep an information governance program healthy, relevant, and effective, changes and fine-tuning will always be required. An enterprise-wide retention schedule is preferable because it eliminates the possibility that different business units will have conflicting records retention periods. For example, if one business unit discards a group of records after 5 years, it would not make sense for another business unit to keep the same records for 10 years. When enterprise-wide retention schedules are not possible, smaller business units, such as divisions or regions, should operate under a consistent retention schedule. We need senior management to set the tone and lead sponsorship for vital records programs. Although e-records are easier to protect and back up, most vital records today are e-records. They are an organization's most essential records. Without them, an organization cannot continue operations. Business processes must be redesigned to improve and optimize the management and security of information, especially the most critical of information, electronic records, before enabling technologies. For instance, using electronic records management, ERM software, fundamentally changes the way people work. And greater efficiencies can be gained with business process redesign versus simply using the ERM systems as electronic filing cabinets to speed up poor processes. Email messages, both inbound and outbound, should be archived automatically and preferably in real time. This ensures that the loss of power, authenticity of an email does not occur. Archiving preserves legal validity and forensic compliance. By policy, most messages will be deleted in a short time frame. Additionally, emails should be indexed to facilitate the searching process, and all messages should be secured in a single location with backup. With these measures, the authenticity and reliability of email records can be ensured. Additionally, personal archiving of email messages should be disallowed. Although users will want to save certain email messages for their own reasons, control and management of email archiving must be at the organizational level or as high of a level as practical, such as division or region. And retention of email helps to reduce storage costs and legal risk while improving the findability of critical records. It makes good business sense to have a policy to say, destroy all email messages after 90 or 120 days that are not flagged as potential records. For example, a help document or a situation that may come into dispute in the future, or those that have some type of legal hold. Take a practical approach and limit cloud use to documents that do not have a long retention period and carry a low litigation risk. Doing this will reduce the risk of compromising or losing critical documents and e-records. Some duplicate copies of vital records may be stored securely in the cloud to help organizations recover in the event of a disaster. Manage social media content by information governance policies and monitor it with controls that ensure protection of critical information assets and preservation of business records. Your organization must clearly state what content and tone is acceptable in social media use. It must retain records of that use, which should be captured in real time. International and national standards provide effective guidance for implementing information governance. Although there is no absolute researching and referencing international guidelines for standardization, other standards, there must be some type of standardization as part of information governance efforts. Creating standardized metadata terms should be part of any information governance efforts that enable faster, more complete, and more accurate searches and retrieval of records. This is important not only in everyday business operations, but also when delving through potentially millions of records during the discovery phase of litigation. Good metadata management also assists in the maintenance of corporate memory and improving accountability in business operations. Using a standardized format and controlled vocabulary provides a precise and comprehensive description of content, location, and value. Using a controlled vocabulary means your organization has standardized a set of terms for metadata elements that describes records. This ensures consistency across the collection and helps with optimizing search and retrieval functions and records research, as well as meeting e-dictionary requests, compliance demands, and other legal and regulatory requirements. Some digital information assets must be preserved permanently as part of an organization's document heritage. It's critical to identify records that must be kept long-term as early as possible. Ideally, these records should be identified prior to or upon creation. This applies to content that was born digitally, as well as content that was paper and then converted to digital form. Digital preservation is defined as long-term, error-free storage of digital information, with means for retrieval and interpretation for the entire lifespan of the information that is required to be retained. Dedicated repositories for historical and cultural memory, such as libraries, archives, and museums, need to move forward to put in place trustworthy digital repositories that can match the security, environmental controls, and wealth of descriptive metadata that these institutions have created for analog assets, such as books and paper records. Digital challenges associated with records management affect all sectors of society: academic, government, private, and not-for-profit enterprises, and ultimately citizens of all developed nations. And as we hear again and again, executive sponsorship is crucial. Securing an executive sponsor at the senior management level is key to a successful information governance program. It is not possible to require managers to take time out of their duties to participate in a project if there is no executive edict. It is best practice across industry sectors and technology to support the accountability principle of the principles. We have identified 25 best practices of information governance. Information governance is a key underpinning for a successful ERM program. Information governance is not a project, but an ongoing program. Using an information governance framework or maturity model is helpful in assessing and guiding information governance programs. Defensible deletion of data, debris, and information that no longer has value is critical in the era of big data. Information governance policies must be developed before enabling technologies are added to assist in enforcement. To provide comprehensive e-document security throughout a document's lifecycle, documents must be secured upon creation using highly sophisticated technologies such as information rights management technologies. A record retention schedule and legal hold notification process are the two primary elements of a fundamental information governance program. A cross-functional team is required to implement information governance. The first step in information risk planning is to consider the applicable laws and regulations that apply to your organization and the jurisdictions in which it conducts business. A risk profile is the basic building block in enterprise risk management, assisting executives in understanding the risks associated with stated business objectives and in allocating resources within a structured evaluation approach or framework. An information risk mitigation plan is a critical part of the information governance planning process. And information risk mitigation plans involve developing risk mitigation options and tasks to reduce the specified risks and improve the odds of achieving business objectives. Proper metrics are required to measure the conformance and performance of your information governance program. Information governance programs must be audited for effectiveness. An enterprise-wide retention schedule is preferable because it eliminates the possibility that different business units will have different records retention periods. Senior management must set the tone and lead sponsorship for vital records program governance and compliance. Business processes must be redesigned to improve the management of electronic records or implement an electronic records management system. Email messages, both inbound and outbound, should be archived automatically and preferably in real time. Personal archiving of email messages should be disallowed. Destructive retention of email helps to reduce storage costs and legal risk while improving findability of critical records. Take a practical approach and limit cloud use to documents that do not have long retention periods and carry a low litigation risk. Manage social media content by information governance policies and monitor it with controls that ensure protection of critical information assets and preservation of business records. International and national standards provide effective guidance for implementing information governance. Creating standardized metadata terms should be part of an information governance effort that enables faster, more complete, and more accurate searches and retrieval of records. Some digital information assets must be preserved permanently as part of an organization's documentary heritage. Executive sponsorship is crucial.